recorded. We have quite a few people that registered that will not be able to be in attendance. If you could please make sure your microphones are muted until question and answers. If you have specific questions, please type them into the chat function. I have a team that is going to be monitoring the chat function for any of those questions, and we'll actually get through those during the question and answer session. If you have any specific questions that maybe you think of later or you really don't want to address to a large group of people, feel free to email those to me. I got the question this morning asking if this was required viewing in order to apply, and that is not the case. This really is just an opportunity to have you understand all of the dollars that are out there for EDA, how they may be applicable. The information is valid as of today. EDA does reserve the right to adjust the notice of funding opportunity at any time. And really, most importantly, thank you for attending, and we hope you learn a lot today. This really is kind of the brainchild of both John Pro and myself, making sure that folks are really aware of all of the economic development dollars that are available during this time. So as the slide continues, I apologize, there's just a small delay. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Jonna to kind of welcome everybody and kick us off.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Secretary Davin and Governor Wolf, we want to especially thank Vince Valdez, Jen, and the team at SPC for putting this together today. For those of you who don't know me, I am the Regional Director for DCED. My office is located in downtown Pittsburgh, although as of late, I'm working out of my Washington County office, otherwise known as my dining area. But I am available to any municipality located within 12 counties in southwestern Pennsylvania. So I'm fairly easy to reach, and I'll put my information in the chat box later. Jen is going to get started here in a minute, but I just want to sort of define for you what ARPA funds we are talking about. I know folks have had a lot of questions about that. So the American Rescue Plan funds, a large chunk of money went to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. The Commonwealth has not spent its funds yet. The legislature opted to put most of that money into the rainy day fund, and we hope to see them capitalize some programs once they come back into session in the fall. So that's the state ARPA funds. Every county received ARPA funds, and every municipality received ARPA funds. So that's the state, the county, and the locals. Today, we're going to talk about the ARPA funds that stayed within the federal government, specifically with the Economic Development Administration, because the EDA has opened up several grant programs that we can all begin to compete for. So again, just to keep that clear in your heads, there was state ARPA money that hasn't been spent yet. The counties have ARPA money. Each municipality has ARPA money. These funds we're talking about today are federal ARPA funds that stayed within the federal government at EDA. So with that said, I will turn it back to Jen, and she is going to talk to you about what those programs are and how we compete for those programs, both individually or more specifically regionally. So Jen, it's all yours.
Fantastic, thank you. So a brief overview of what this workshop's going to be. It's going to be an overview of kind of the American Rescue Plan Act specific to Economic Development Administration, some EDA application basics. I'm going to go into each of the challenges, including Buildback Better, the Economic Adjustment Assistance Challenge, the Coal Communities Commitment, the Good Jobs Challenge, the Statewide Planning Research and Networks, the Indigenous Communities, Travel, Tourism, and Outdoor Recreation, talk about what's next, and then question and answer and some discussion. And as I kind of kick this off, I want everybody to know not all of these grants are going to be something that's a good fit for your organization or your area, but it's really just important to know what dollars are out there so that you have just as much access to apply as anyone else. So in terms of EDA application basics, historically, EDA applications go to district organizations of an EDA designated economic development district, Indian tribe or consortium of Indian tribes, state, county, city, or other political subdivisions of a state, including special purpose units of state or local government engaged in economic or infrastructure development activities, or consortium of political subdivisions. Also includes higher education, consortiums of higher educations, and public or private nonprofit organizations. So for-profit is historically not somebody who's eligible. This really is just for these categories here. So just thinking in advance as a whole, you know, want to make sure sam.gov, grants.gov, you're one of the eligible applicants. You want to review each of the notice of funding opportunities to ensure the requirements are met. You want to review all of the grant requirements. You're going to need a SEDS component to all of this, which our regional SEDS currently is the Smart Moves. And upon completion of this workshop webinar, I'll be sending out kind of a one-pager overview of everything. In addition to that, links to the slides. Very important reminder here, if there are any grants that you're interested in, do not wait to the last minute to register and read the notice of funding opportunities. Grants.gov can take 3 to 5 business days to log into and register, and several weeks if there's any problems. So that being said, I also really wanted to remind everybody to just take a look at all the programs that are going to be coming out, because outside of EDA, there will be more for various types of infrastructure, etc. We can also post this on our YouTube page later for viewing as well. So the actual American Rescue Plan and the challenges. So specific to EDA, on March 11th, President Biden signed this into law. The legislation was designed to enable all Americans to respond and recover from the impacts of COVID-19. $3 billion in supplemental funding to assist communities nationwide in their efforts to build back better, basically accelerating economic recovery. They want to make sure to build local economies that will be resilient to future economic shocks. As all of us know, COVID-19 really did a significant impact to our local economies, and we want to be prepared for any future. EDA wants to provide larger, more transformational investments across the nation while utilizing its greatest strengths, flexible funding to lead to community-led economic development. There's an emphasis on equity. EDA investments under the ARPA plan will directly benefit previously underserved communities that may have been impacted by COVID-19. Also, EDA made a coal communities commitment, which I'll go a little bit more in depth. That's going to be allocating $300 million of the $3 billion of the American Rescue Plan appropriation to ensure support for the communities as they recover from the pandemic. Ultimately, they want to see those new jobs, new opportunities, including the creation or expanding of a new industry sector. And there were 6 individual grants challenges under the EDA's ARPA Act that we're going to go into. So I'm going to start with Build Back Better. And to reiterate, EDA did individual webinars of about an hour to 90 minutes for each of these challenges. All of those are available. Today is going to be a very concise who, what, where, when for each of the challenges. If there's something that you're specifically interested in, we can have that conversation, but there's also the links to each of those specific webinars that go a lot more in depth. So I'm going to talk about the application details. I'll talk about the about and usually some eligible uses for funding, just so you have an idea of each of these. So Build Back Better is this bright shining star challenge where it's going to be very interesting, where it's one regional applicant with 3 to 8 large scale projects. It's a 2-phased grant. So the first phase is due October 19th, and that's really concept planning. They're going to do 50 to 60 regional grant awards at about $500,000. Of those 50 or 60, it's going to get whittled down for the implementation side, where 20 to 30 grants will be awarded for $25 to $75 million, up to $100 million for a project. The award period is September of 2022 through May 2027, and a performance period of up to 48 months. The match rate for phase 1 is 0%. It's 100% funded, and phase 2 is a 20% match, but it really could be up to 100. What makes Build Back Better different is that it's going to be one regional applicant, and you're going to have multiple partners. And so it's aiming to assist communities that were impacted. Again, helps regions develop transformational economic development strategies, and it's going to fund the implementation of. So it's setting it up and then putting the money out to actually get it. So think shovel ready. The recovery could be building economic diversity and resiliency to, again, mitigate future impacts. It's going to benefit the regional workforce and residents through high quality jobs, increased wages, revitalized community. So it's an overarching ecosystem of how do we make resiliency and building back exactly what they're saying is better. So they're thinking about it very much from creating support clusters. So complementary, aligned construction and non-construction projects. They should be organized under a single vision that supports industry growth. So Southwest Pennsylvania is forming a regional coalition in coordination with private sector partners, again, that share a common vision. Again, please make sure you mute yourself, if you could, thank you. That share a common vision for how significant investment from EDA could catalyze wage growth, economic growth, new industry, and the scaling of new industries and existing industries within your region. So the projects really come back to competitiveness. And please, moment, sorry, y'all. Thank you. Okay. The Allegheny Conference is going to be leading the regional coalition currently, and they're looking for project ideas. So something to think about as we're going through this presentation is, do you have a project in mind that may fit into any of these upcoming challenges? Buildback Better is a single applicant with multiple partners. Good Jobs will be a single applicant with multiple partners, but the rest can be individual applicants or groups of applicants. But specific to Buildback Better. So what can be funded under this? Construction activities, so the creation of an industrial park, if you want to make shipping and logistic facilities, business incubators, accelerators, brownfield redevelopment, technology-based facilities, transportation enhancements, water and sewer systems, telecommunications, infrastructure, non-construction activities, design and engineering, technical assistance, economic recovery, strategy development, entrepreneurial support, workforce training, new academic curriculum, market feasibility studies, and capitalization of revolving loan funds. So what makes this so different is that when they tell you that they want you to build back better, they want to hear what your needs are and what you think you would need to do this. Because of the sheer volume of the phase $2 being 25 really and up to 100 million, they know that it's going to take significant funds to impact legitimate change. So think about the projects that you have, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how to connect in just a moment. So with this, the Allegheny Conference is the regional entity for the Southwestern Pennsylvania area. They're collecting project ideas. They're utilizing a team, HR&A, to have those project discussions, lead conversations. There's going to be future project meetings specific to Build Back Better that's going to be scheduled. The projects that can be done for this, again, include planning, infrastructure, workforce, entrepreneurship. Why this is so important is that EDA has stressed collaboration over competition. What they don't want to see are 15 of the same exact projects going in for dollars and competing against each other. They want to see one entity with similar goals reaching upwards. So that being said, it's so important for us to be thinking regionally on this, not just the benefits to one county, one area, etc. So if you have some specific project ideas for Build Back Better, please email. Oh, sorry. I just got a question. Will the Allegheny Conference invite us, or do we need to contact them? Great question. So at this time, if you want to send me your project ideas, we'll connect you to the appropriate team member for Allegheny Conference and or HR&A. Allegheny Conference will be joining us later to talk for a few minutes, a little bit more about this, what they're looking for, etc. But for now, this is very specific to Build Back Better, and it is ultimately one large project with 3 to 8 subcomponents discussing what we need to do to build back regionally. So again, project ideas, if you feel free to email me, I can connect, because what I foresee happening is probably 10 separate projects on Blight, 10 separate projects on this. So if we can organize specific meetings for those areas of project ideas, it'll be a much more coordinated effort. So next, I'm going to talk about the Economic Adjustment Assistance Challenge. So this has a due date of March 26th of 2022. This is a rolling acceptance, meaning that if you have, I would not wait till March 26th, I would keep going. and apply as soon as you're ready. Award amounts are between $500,000 and $5 million. Performance period is September of 2022 through May 2027. Match rate of 20%. 80% is funded, but it could be up to 100% funded. Within the notice of funding opportunity, it'll really go through some things that you would need to state, talk about, make sure in your application where you could potentially get it up to 100%. You know, this is wonderful because any project that's going to create jobs or contribute to a community or region's economic recovery is eligible. So this is their most flexible program, and the grants that are made under this will help hundreds of communities across the nation plan, build, innovate, and put people back to work through construction or non-construction projects designed to meet those local needs. So there's a strong focus on employment for workers here. Again, EDA, it's going to always come back to that economic development, the jobs, and making an area competitive. So for this, when it talks about that strong focus on employment, it's rehiring laid off workers, create and retain union jobs, promotion of efficient projects. They have broad discretion over the use of these funds. The funding is authorized to prevent, prepare for, and respond to coronavirus for necessary expenses for responding to this as an economic injury. A lot of times you'll see economic injury, that this was this place in time in which the economy was significantly bruised, if you will. They're looking for those long-term, regionally oriented, coordinated, and collaborative projects. Again, redevelopment strategies that can foster economic growth and resiliency. Resiliency is really a common word, thread, denominator throughout this whole thing. You know, they want to make sure that we're getting back to a place of where we were, but preparing ourselves so that if this were to happen again, we're not going to be nearly as impacted. So one of the things that they talk about as well is that this includes plans aimed at building stronger regional economic links between urban centers and rural areas. EDA is not looking to just go with urban centers. They want to hear from our communities. They want to hear what's needed, and they want to hopefully get projects that will work through all of this. So here are some of the eligible activities that can go under this. And this is important, especially for all of you on the phone. So water and sewer system improvements, industrial parks, high-tech shipping and logistics facilities, those business incubators and accelerators, that brownfield redevelopment technology-based facilities, wet labs, multi-tenant manufacturing facilities, science, research parks, workforce training facilities, and the telecommunications infrastructure, so broadband and development facilities. When I talk about the Good Jobs Challenge, it's going to have similar aspects, and the way to separate the two, that if construction is the main component of your project and it has a jobs addition to it, you're going to want to apply under economic adjustment assistance. If you're looking to do something that has tremendous amounts of jobs and not really much construction, that will be under Good Jobs. Non-construction activities can be funded, such as design and engineering, technical assistance, economic recovery strategy development, and capitalization of revolving loan funds. So what's ineligible? So with the EDA, these are pretty standard. They slightly change depending on the grant, but mainly projects that are ineligible are such that would be residential in nature. Projects that create community amenities such as swimming pools, zoos, recreation centers. Projects that support casinos or gaming. Projects that support governmental or public safety functions, so buildings to house municipal government, firehouses, public safety. Requests for funding to supplement operating budgets or replace lost revenue. Projects primarily directed at public health responses to the coronavirus pandemic, such as testing, vaccination centers, increased hospital capacity, acquisition of PPE for general government use or public distribution. So a note about this one is that if your specific project has a need in the budget for that PPE equipment specific to the project, that can be listed. But if it's just a general acquisition of I need masks, I need shields, etc., that's not going to work. And then funds may not be used directly or indirectly as an offset for other funds to support or oppose collective bargaining. So Coal Communities Commitment. This isn't actually the grant or the challenge. This is a subset of dollars that they've put aside. So EDA recognizes that the coal communities have been significantly impacted by COVID-19, as well as a history of challenges. So this specific community commitment allocates $300 million of the $3 billion of the American Rescue Plan to support coal communities as they recover. The goal is going to be to help create new jobs and opportunities, the creation or expansion of a new industry sector. So the funds that have been set aside for this, 100 million specifically have been set aside for the Buildback Better Regional Challenge, and 200 million have been set aside for the economic adjustment assistance. There is no predefined list of coal impacted communities. There's not a specific map. There's not a specific list. We've been getting that question pretty frequently. How they define it. So coal community question. Oh, sorry. You can mute yourself, please. Coal communities include those regions that can reasonably demonstrate how changes in the coal economy have resulted or are anticipated to result in job losses and layoffs in any coal-reliant commercial sector. So that's coal mining, coal-fired power plants, etc. This is really important because, especially in southwestern Pennsylvania, this is us. I think there's a very strong and direct tie to being a coal-impacted community. We at SPC, and one of the things I'll talk about later is how we can help. There's a lot of data, maps, etc., that we can help to support your argument for being a coal-impacted community if you're not quite sure of what that tie is. We've seen it over the last several years, how it's affected southwestern Pennsylvania. We've seen it through job loss, people leaving the community, etc. We've been deeply impacted by this, and this is a good opportunity for southwestern Pennsylvania to compete for some significant funding. So EDA wants to encourage all coal communities to apply for American Rescue Plan programs. Again, they're offering the opportunity to successfully compete for large transformational grants, meaning that coal-impacted communities, they're not going to be in the same subset as a general applicant. It gives them kind of that opportunity to level that playing field. They're going to offer and provide planning and technical assistance grants to support states in their efforts to help revitalize coal communities. They're going to offer opportunities to develop national communities of practice to support coal communities, and really to demonstrate eligibility, complete applications. They're going to need to show that third-party economic and demographic stats and document kind of how you've been negatively impacted in the community and the region. And again, we're here to help you with that. So these are some examples from EDA on projects that were in coal-impacted communities. So there was a $4 million grant to the North Dakota Association of Rural Electric Cooperatives to construct a new line worker training facility. Southeast Ohio, $1.6 million to Ohio University to support the Building Opportunities Beyond Coal Accelerating Transition, Bobcat, great acronym, network, which assists communities that have been impacted by the decline of coal. So this project utilized development resources, regional collaboration, and economic diversification through entrepreneurial growth, workforce, and identification of infrastructure and investment needs. And what's important, while this call really is just our local government partners, you work deeply within the community to learn what their needs are. So even if these projects may not be 100% for you and your municipality, please think of your other partners that these may be good programs for, and spread the word. And we hope to do additional events for nonprofits, et cetera, but we're just kicking this off with the municipalities and local government. So Sheridan, Wyoming, $2.26 million went to the Sheridan Economic Educational Development Authority to fund the construction of a new manufacturing facility at the Sheridan High Tech Park. And the goal of this is it's going to be adding and including insulated metal building structures, the purchase of new equipment, materials, plumbing, electrical and data lines, and a fire suppression system. In Johnstown, our neighbor, $1.95 million to the Johnstown Redevelopment Authority to build a new entrepreneurial center to house growing small businesses. This center also helps persons recovering from opioid addiction re-enter the local workforce. And in Hazard, Kentucky, $3.8 million to the Hazard Community College Center of Manufacturing Excellence. So again, all different types of projects, not all of them are the same. So if you have something in mind that might be a fit like this, let's talk about it. So moving on, to reiterate, the Coal Communities Challenges were very specific to the economic adjustment assistance and the Buildback Better. So those dollars are set aside just for that. So the rest of these, you're competing with the full nation on this. So this is the Good Jobs Challenge. This is a very large scale grant that is going to have, again, that one backbone organization that supports a sectoral partnership. And their goal is going to be to connect, convene, coordinate the stakeholders in a region. So the due date on this is January 26th. It's a rolling acceptance. Award amounts are somewhere between 5 million and 25 million. That's probably going to end up being somewhere between 25 and 50 regional projects. There's 3 phases to this, and it's phased funding, meaning that when phase 1 is complete, you'll then get phase 2 dollars, phase 3, etc. Performance period on this is July 2022 through May 2027. Match rate is 0%. It's up to 100% funded, but EDA specifically notes that projects that leverage funds are more competitive. So as I mentioned, this is a one applicant with multiple partners. So the point of the Good Jobs Challenge is designed to get Americans back to work by establishing or strengthening regional workforce training systems and training workers within in-demand skills through sectoral partnerships. What's different about this is a lot of times when you hear the workforce, you might be thinking Workforce Investment Board, you might be thinking, career link type of. This really and truly is, it's larger than that. It's creating a workforce ecosystem where everybody is involved in this, including the workforce investment boards, including the local municipalities, the schools, everybody that's, and the partnerships ultimately are going to create and implement industry-led training programs designed to provide skills and connect unemployed or underemployed workers to existing and emerging job opportunities. So when you see underemployed workers, that's going to be somebody that could be working in a very different career path if the opportunity existed, or somebody who maybe went to college but they're making minimum wage because that opportunity is not there. So with this program, they want to see systems that are going to train workers with the skills to secure union jobs or quality jobs with good pay, benefits, and growth opportunities. Throughout the notice of funding opportunities, there is a strong tie to make sure that unions are included throughout this. And it's not a requirement, but they are a partner throughout most of this from all of the different notice of funding opportunities. Significant focus on job placement and firm employer commitments to hire. With the Good Jobs Challenge, it's not about creating the system, it's about talking and finding out what the needs are, getting your stakeholders to be a part of everything, creating those jobs, and actually putting people into work. So, and ultimately assisting groups facing barriers to employment. So there's 3 phases. How I mentioned this is a 3-phased grant. So the first is going to be phase 1, which is system development. This is funding to help system lead entity establish and development of a regional workforce training system combined of multiple sector partnerships. How I mentioned workforce, schools, local government, everybody that would be involved in this. Program design is the second phase. So this is going to be the funding to identify the skills needed by industry and workers, develop the skills training curriculum, the materials, secure whatever technical expertise might be needed by those businesses, including providing professional development, capacity building for trainers and educators. So, and then finally, once that is done, it comes down to program implementation. So this is to actually deliver the training, all of the services that are needed, and get people to work. So what's important about this is this allows you to take a look at your community, find out who you currently have, what is currently needed, and build an actual ecosystem that makes sense. You know, you're building for what you need and getting the assistance that you need to make sure that you can get people to those jobs. So lots of eligible activities. I'm not going to read through all of them, but basically with system development, when it talks about, it's going to be dollars to establish that regional system. So that backbone organization, if you will, whether it's going to be your local, state government, including your workforce boards, the employers, employer-facing organizations, training providers, your community-based organizations or worker-serving organizations, labor unions, if relevant for the region. You're going to develop those processes to gather skills needed from employers and translate into effective training to employment models. So again, this is the building piece of it, and just bringing everybody in the room and having those conversations. For program design, the employers are going to identify in-demand industry. They're going to focus on the hiring needs, and they're going to do market analysis, determine what those skills are that are needed, develop a training model, look at a gap analysis. What's missing? What do we need? Determine who the existing training providers and courses are, and how can you get those scaled to address that need. Here you're going to have that conversation about employer commitments to hire, which I'm sure most of you have heard. Everybody is hiring. Everybody has that need. The challenge is employees. So this is a really important program if people can come together on it, because what it's going to do is truly help get people back to work, which is going to serve your employers. We're hearing feedback from employers that are having to cut hours, cut days, et cetera, because there's not enough workers to do the jobs. So planning this, you can help develop to plan with all of these folks, conduct outreach, and recruit underserved workers to participate in this. So you're basically solving your own unemployment and employment issues with this program. And then finally, when you're ready to implement, you're going to have dollars for recruiting underserved workers who are either unemployed or underemployed. You're going to be able to deliver that skills training and provide wraparound services. So that's childcare, transportation, coaching, et cetera. And ultimately, people are going to be back into work, well-paying, quality jobs. So again, that's a very, very large challenge. If you have some ideas on that, we'd love to hear it. The next two I'm going to talk about are going to be somewhat brief, as they may not qualify for everybody, but the statewide planning, research, networks, and application details. So this was kind of a three-pronged approach. One was invitation only. The other was it's competitive. But the state planning grants, that was invitation by EDA. That already went out. And then you have, what I'm going to spend most of the time talking about now is the research and networks grant. So the due date on this is coming up. It's October 31st of 2021. It's a rolling acceptance. Award amounts for the research side of this are $200,000 to $600,000. The networks and communities of practice are $2 million to $6 million awards. The performance period is July of 22 through May of 27. Match rate is up to 100. And again, projects that can leverage funds are more competitive. One of the things that is really great about these EDA grants is the 20% match. Can be looked at up to 100%. So match has been historically one of the challenges for all of our grant applicants. This is an opportunity to not have that be a barrier. So the research and networks portion of this, they're supporting states in all of their planning efforts. They put aside $59 million for statewide planning efforts. So that went out to our states. In addition, that $31 million for research and network grants, this is what we're going to talk about here. This is to invest in research that assesses the effectiveness of EDA's programs and provides support for stakeholder communities around those EDA initiatives. Again, statewide planning, invites sent directly to the states. The networks and communities of practice. So this is where they want folks to develop stakeholder and grantee networks to assist EDA grantees with technical assistance, best practice, community connections, scale what works, and accelerate impact. So they want to hear from us to say, is this working? Is this not working, et cetera. So, and then on the research side, study and evaluate EDA's new American Rescue Plan programs. This may not be a fit for everybody, but I wanted everybody to at least have all six. So when we talk about the research and community of practice, so they want to ensure that the project increases the economic development capacity of an identified stakeholder group and enhances the intended impacts of the cohort they're proposing to support. So this is going to be developing sustainable networks for future EDA grantees, economic development districts, tribal partners, university centers, RLF grantees, build to scale grantees. It's about developing a community of practice around these programs. And on the research side, again, it's proposed project. It's got to be original, innovative, and it adds to the body of knowledge supporting decisions made on economic development. So they're really interested in real-time research and an evaluation of the programs, especially Good Jobs, Buildback Better, Indigenous community programs, and the travel and tourism. So for research and communities of practice, each application is going to be evaluated on the capacity, their expertise in the applicable component, strategic approach, the feasibility of the budget, strength of proposed financial match, if any, feasibility of deliverables and timeline, project sustainability, scalability, dissemination, and cross collaboration with EDA grantees and other economic development partners. Again, this grant's a little bit different, and it really is about the research aspect of the EDA program itself. The next is the Indigenous Communities Challenge. So this one has a slight difference in its eligible application. So as we saw on an earlier slide, all of the normal applicants, eligible entities under this EDA program are Indian tribes and a consortium of Indian tribes, public or private nonprofit organization or association serving Native Hawaiians. It's not going to really work for Pennsylvania, but again, if it's a public or private nonprofit organization or association serving Native Pacific Islanders of Guam, American Samoa, the Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands, the Republic of the Marshall Islands, and the Federated States of Micronesia or the Republic of Palau. So this one is very, very, very specific to Indigenous communities. Again, details, rolling acceptance, they're expecting funds to be obligated by September of 2022. Award amounts are $500,000 to $5 million. Performance period is July of 2022 through May of 2027. And the match rate is 100% funded. And $100 million specifically for Indigenous communities across the whole EDA ARPA grant process. The program is designed to support the needs of tribal governments and Indigenous communities. There's a wide range of technical planning, workforce development, entrepreneurial, and public works and infrastructure projects that would be eligible for this. And Indigenous communities are encouraged and eligible to apply under all EDA programs. So again, this allows for a wider range of projects. So foundational economic infrastructure such as broadband, energy, roads, water, wastewater, vocational and higher education facilities, community health facilities, even if the connection to job creation is indirect. Note projects that directly support casinos or the request to replace lost revenue remain ineligible. So for this, there may not be a direct tie to this. This is really just making sure that you are aware of that it exists. The next and final is one that I think is going to be really important to all of you on the call, as travel, tourism, and recreation is a big part of what we all do. So due date on this is March 15th, so there's some time. It is a rolling acceptance though. Award amounts of $5 million to $10 million for approximately 150 projects. This is a performance period of July of 2022 through May of 2027. The match rate on this is 20%, but it really can be up to 100% funded. Projects that leverage those funds are always going to be seen as more competitive. So the state tourism grants, there were $510 million in non-competitive awards to help states quickly invest. So that is 510 off to all of the states doing what they're going to do. For you all that are here, this is going to be about the competitive grants portion of this. There is $240 million to help communities that have been hit hardest by challenges facing the travel, tourism, and outdoor recreation sectors. This is going to be an opportunity to invest in infrastructure, workforce, or other projects to support the recovery of this industry and the economic resiliency of the community in the future. So with this, it's intended to fund projects that support the development and implementation of a community's economic development strategy for travel, tourism, and outdoor recreation pandemic recovery. They want to see in regions that are adversely affected by the damage to travel, tourism, and outdoor recreation from the coronavirus pandemic. And applicants must clearly notify EDA in the application if they're seeking or receiving any other funding for the project, including funding from a state tourism grant. So with this, it's thinking about projects that you may have wanted to fund. We all know that travel and tourism has not had it easy during this time period. We've seen some areas of growth, but this is an opportunity to kind of build new. So with this, here are some eligible activities. So strategy development for travel, tourism, and outdoor recreation. Construction-wise, recovery project implementation, cultural arts and tourism facilities, zoos and aquariums. This is a policy change that's allowed under this, but not others. New outdoor recreation and trail infrastructure and public access enhancement. That's a big one. So especially for trail infrastructure, I know that a lot of projects we've seen here need this, and this would be the time to apply. Non-construction activities can have multi-state level, countrywide tourism or outdoor recreation promotion, and then on the state side, state and local level tourism promotion. Marketing projects are only eligible under state tourism grants, the diversification projects. EDA prefers projects that support the travel, tourism, and outdoor recreation sectors. So what is ineligible? So projects that are primarily residential in nature, and this is coming directly from the notice of funding opportunity. So when they say projects that create community amenities that are not specific to regional tourism, such as swimming pools and golf courses. We've gotten some feedback on the golf courses piece of this, but according to the notice of funding opportunity, this is what's listed. Also, projects that directly support casinos or gaming, projects that support general governmental or public safety functions, funding to supplement operating budgets or replace lost revenue. And again, funds may not be used to directly or indirectly as an offset for other funds to support or oppose collective bargaining. So went through this pretty quick because I think we're going to have quite a few questions and some really good discussion coming up. So what's next? After this is completed, we're going to have a survey on the workshop. And the survey on the workshop is really going to be about what do you think you need assistance-wise? What type of projects do you have in mind that you might want to go out for? What questions do you have that maybe either couldn't get answered here? Unfortunately, EDA was invited to attend this, but their schedules could not allow it. So, but what they have been more than kind about offering to me is they said, please get whatever questions you have that couldn't be answered, and they'll work to answer those for us. But this survey will come out. I have gone through a tremendous amount of information in a very short period of time. So the workshop recording and slides will be available. So after this meeting, any updates, questions, etc., that I may have to update a few things, but we'll provide the link to all of this upon completion. Technical assistance for individual grants is needed. We're here to help. We are your economic development district and a designee that can basically work through. Where I think if we can't help you, EDA is more than happy to help. I'm going to also provide in this email upon completion the contact information for our EDA representative. His name is Chris Casper. He's incredibly helpful. He's located out of the Philadelphia office, and he represents the state of Pennsylvania for Economic Development Administration. So in terms of technical assistance, we're here. And then expect Buildback Better project meetings and discussions. This is really important. This is such an opportunity for Southwestern Pennsylvania to go after significant funding. And it's an opportunity for us to rebuild. And again, with Allegheny Conference leading, we couldn't be in a better position to work together, to think regionally, to put projects out there, etc. I'm not sure, just because of my screen view, it's tough for me to see, but if Stephanie from Allegheny Conference is on the phone, or
yes, Stephanie is here.
I am here.
Thank you. Perfect. If you would like to talk a little bit about Buildback Better, I'm going to go back through those slides, and if you want to talk about how you're collecting applications, how we can be of assistance, you have approximately, we had 200 folks register for this, meaning everybody's interested. Awesome. and looking to work together.
Great. Well, thanks to all of you. And it's wonderful to have this great partnership with the SPC and all of you in thinking about how we can really build back better the region. This grant opportunity is really made for the kind of regional collaboration that we all aspire to in terms of propelling what they're talking about as a cluster. So some sort of piece of our economy that is ready for growth and opportunity and jobs, and to align a set of 5 to 8 projects around something really strategic. And so what we're trying to do is get as many people involved in this conversation as possible, because we want to unearth the best thinking that's out there and make sure that we can put together a really compelling proposal to the federal government. The way this is structured is in a 2-phased approach. So the first phase, which is right now, we only got 90 days and the clock is ticking till the middle of October to put together an application that will bring us only about $500,000 towards some time to plan. So our goal, so with the idea that we then get a few months to go after the big money of $25 to $75 million. And so the way this grant is kind of structured is that we have to come up with an overarching concept. So for example, how will artificial intelligence or the future of manufacturing or the future of healthcare, how do any of those things look? And then what are the projects that are out there that we can put towards this? There will be a very significant workforce and development and training component to this because this is all about job creation and job opportunity and getting people back to work and finding their path. Some of the overarching themes in this goal is number one, it is very much about inclusion and equity. So how does everybody benefit from the success of whatever projects we look at? And that could be equity from a racial perspective, from the making sure that our urban and our rural are aligned, making sure that we are being kind of a vision that everybody can find their place. Number two, we want to make sure that we are propelling people towards opportunity for jobs and wages, and that we are looking for projects that are already kind of in our sweet spot and in comparative advantages of the region, and that are shovel ready. Not shovel ready in the sense of infrastructure, but shovel ready in the sense that we have some things in the hopper that could grow, a project you're developing, a new program university or college is spawning, an interesting proposal that you're about to release that can really move us forward in building a new ecosystem. So what is out there in your arsenal that we're already thinking about that just would take a little more cash and a little more effort to move forward? And how do we align all of these? So we could do, we could provide some construction funding. There could be entrepreneurship programs. This could go towards pieces that are in a variety of spaces and a lot of flexibility. So in terms of just what do we do to get you involved? If you have ideas, if you're thinking about something, if there's something really cool happening in your area, in your office, something that you actually think should happen, send a note to Jen Lasser. She is part of our committee, our steering committee. We want all of your voices into the mix. And we want to make sure collectively that we are putting our best regional assets forward, that we're making sure that this is a public-private partnership, which is what it has to be. We're focused on equity. And I should also mention the key around this around sustainability, which is also a priority of the Biden administration in this goal. So I'll stop talking there. Our goal here at the conference is to shepherd and coordinate and get all the voices and to really think regionally so we can be successful. And wherever this money goes to whatever end, that it benefits all of us in moving our region forward.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. And so where I'm kind of taking this back to, as you see about the coalition support, it's about having these conversations. It's about the collaboration around regional assets. It's about understanding what your project needs are, because ultimately this is an opportunity, even outside of EDA, to understand what our region needs, because even if not for Buildback Better, there's going to be other opportunities, but Buildback Better, we need to really have a strong vision on what this needs to be. So if you have any project ideas, please email them over. What I plan on doing is, for example, if we have so many of one type of project, I'll probably schedule a meeting with myself, Allegheny Conference, and their team so that we can do this as strategically as possible, because we want to be respectful of your time and really and get a strong understanding of your specific needs. And so when this is all done, if you have any specific questions, if you're not sure if your project is right for this, please email me. Whatever you need, we can set up a time to talk. I want to be as supportive as possible during this time for whatever projects you have. Allegheny Conference has been a tremendous partner to SPC on this. We all have the same goal of making Southwestern Pennsylvania as competitive as possible in terms of one region applying for this amazing transformational funds. So thank you again. If you have any questions, let us know, and I'm going to kind of wrap all this up and let you know what's next and how we can help. So
Jen, it's Donna. Before you do that, can I ask Stephanie to weigh in on if she feels under the Build Back Better, if one of the activities, I know that will be comprised of several activities within the application. Do you see room in Build Back Better, Stephanie, for something focused on blight? I work in all of these communities in southwestern Pennsylvania, so I think I can speak for the folks on the call. That is by far the biggest challenge facing our small towns and our rural communities. They can't get to a higher level because they need to deal with some of the basics. And one of the basics is just eliminating the blight that is pervasive throughout the region. So is that something you see might be possible within, I would guess it would be the Build Back Better challenge, or maybe the Economic Adjustment Assistance Challenge?
Yeah, so Jonna, I appreciate you asking that question, because I guess it allows me to make a broader point, which is what we know is that we are sitting at this very unique moment of federal funding coming from many different angles, right? And we're using this opportunity on the Build Back Better to try and to not only craft a regional opportunity that we can get funded, but more importantly, to unearth what this region really needs, right? What is on the minds of all of you out there where you sit in your community, in your main street, and what is your pain point and what is your vision of your community? And as we unearth all of this, we can start putting the puzzle together, right? That we maybe, because the Build Back Better is first, we're applying for it first because we haven't seen the energy money come in yet, or the infrastructure money come in yet, or whatever other grant come in yet. These other grants that Jen is talking about aren't due yet. So number one, we haven't made any, there's no decisions, right? I'm just trying to speak on behalf of everybody. We don't know what's going to be in this grant and what we're asking for. So could be, but even if it's not, I think what we're trying to figure out is what's needed. So when the next money comes and the next money comes, we have an overarching vision and we can start plugging in different opportunities. So I think that's great, Jonna, to kind of do it. I'd say whoever has it on their mind, help us think through what that could look like. Is there a tool that you have in mind for addressing that? Is there a loan fund? Is there could we use one of our kind of funds that we sit at the Allegheny Conference around our real estate opportunities for creating, clear real estate opportunities? I don't know, but I think one of the questions is it on many of your minds and hearts? And number two, how could we solve that problem? What would we actually be asking for funding to do so we could plug that in either this grant or another one?
And I'll add to that, and that's so, John, that's a great question, because I think it's a mix of both of what you're saying. I do think the economic adjustment assistance might be really well suited for blight, but I also think that if blight is something that is causing significant challenges, it's something that for Build Back Better we need to be aware of so that we can see where all of this falls. And I think there's definitely going to be additional infrastructure dollars. There's going to be different dollars under so many different grants. This just happens to be one of the first that gets released. So I think this is such an opportunity to learn what our pain points are. We all know what they are, but to put them on paper, to map out what's needed, and to really establish a strategic priority for how do we get those dollars and what it actually costs, et cetera. The turnaround time on most of these grants is that 12 to 48 months. And so it's making sure that we can do those things. But I think for sure, if you have blight projects, we need to talk about it for Build Back Better. I think we can absolutely potentially go after economic adjustment dollars if that doesn't end up being one of the main projects. But I think when thinking about rebuilding that ecosystem of southwestern Pennsylvania and how do we build back better, if blight is an area, it's got to be at least addressed conversationally. So that's a wonderful point. So that being said, so that's leading to my final point kind of what's next. Those Build Back Better project meetings and discussions, depending on the number that I get back of surveys and what you're looking for, I'll probably be organizing individual meetings for those areas. Because one of the things, for example, I think there's going to have to be just a strong conversation on blight in general. So that'll require its own call. If there's something specifically on, you all see a need to do something with workforce, that's going to need to be its own call. And what's important about that is that there's going to be aspects of that that are going to work itself very well into Buildback Better. And there's going to be aspects of that that we may say, hey, you know what, another regional entity needs to go after these good jobs dollars. And what's wonderful about EDA in their notice of funding opportunity, they specifically state that, for example, you submit a project and it might be better under a different program, they reserve the right to move that project to there. So meaning that if your application should be under good jobs, but really it's more economic adjustment, they can move it there and use those funds. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you again, Stephanie.
Hey, Jen and Stephanie, I wanted to call your attention to a question that's in the chat. Art was asking, who comprises the Allegheny Conference Committee and will SPC act as a liaison?
Yeah, SPC is like a critical partner in this, and is in our committees and in our in the mix in helping us make sure we're soliciting all the best ideas from all of you in the SPC orbit. So yes, the committee itself, I would say there's not really a formal committee. We have a consultant that is helping to aggregate a lot of ideas from many sources. Right now, this week, we have about 7 or 8 focus groups happening. Focus groups is the wrong word, but convening is happening in different groups. So for example, about 20 universities met this morning, maybe 30 of them. We have this conversation with the economic development organizations around the 10 county last week and this week. We have another group of folks from kind of more of our innovation ecosystem that's been meeting. We have a group of employers that are meeting. So there's a lot of different groups that are happening in order to make sure that we're getting as much input and that people are kind of aligning around ideas, and we're relying a bit on a consultant to help us get the inventory, get the aggregation, and pull it all together. So I hope that helps. But yes, SPC is definitely going to be a go-to coordinator to help us make sure that we get all your voices into the mix.
Perfect, thank you. And then I guess my only question is left for Jen. We do have a few questions in the chat box. I don't know if you wanted to take those live or you wanted to direct those folks to email you.
Absolutely. So we still have a little bit of time. I think we'll actually end a bit early, and it gives us a chance to have some good conversations. But I just wanted to kind of go into how SPC can be assistance of this specific to EDA grants. Again, as your economic development district, you know, we're here to provide technical assistance. We're here to help answer questions and connect. So whether that's SEDS plan alignment, mapping, data, technical assistance, project meetings, and convening partners. And we actually are going to have an ARPA website go live next week. That's where you'll be able to get any updates, the slides, being able to view everything. This is this is the new deal, if you will, for this century for us. And so it's an opportunity that we don't want to miss. The ultimate goal of today was to let you know what dollars existed. These, again, may not be all something that is worthwhile for everybody, but ultimately it's an opportunity to know what's out there. So kind of wrapping this up before we get to Q&A, I want to just remind everybody, give yourself proper time to get registered in all of the various sites. You're going to want to read each notice of funding opportunity. You want to pay attention to all of those deadlines and those requirements in the fine print. As I mentioned, not every project is going to be applicable for your municipality or organization. But knowing that these dollars exist, if you start to think of other partners, this is where you could easily build, whether it's a regional coalition or go in. If 10 of you have bike path projects, maybe you go in on a Southwestern Pennsylvania bike path projects instead of 10 individual smaller grants. So if you're not sure on anything, you have questions, reach out to SPC, EDA, reach out to Jonna. Jonna and I talk regularly. Many other grants are expected to come out through other federal agencies. This is just one. If you have that Buildback Better challenge, let's talk about it. And, reminder, we're here to help. We're here to be of assistance. We want to connect. And this was, again, this project was an opportunity, and it started through a conversation Jonna and I had, just making sure that all communities in Southwestern Pennsylvania had the same level of knowledge of all the programs that were out there. We appreciate the partnership and really just look forward to working with everybody. So moving into this, I wanted to, again, bring back to myself, Jonna. I have Steve Meredith and Faith Collins on the team. Steve, if you want to start by reading the first question, and then Faith, if you want to take the next one. And again, if I will do my best to answer these. If it is something that I may have to direct to EDA, again, All of this is recorded. All of these questions I can go through, and whatever I can't answer, I can get over to EDA and get back to you indirectly.
Thanks, Jen. So what I've been doing is I've just been copying and pasting the questions that I have into a Word file so that they don't scroll up and disappear. The first one that I saw that was not answered in the chat, the one slide mentioned the importance of providing wraparound services such as childcare. Childcare is also struggling to recruit and retain workers because of lower pay and low education requirements. How might an apprenticeship program for childcare workers that furthers their education and results in higher wages fit into an application for this funding?
So I think that's a tremendous idea, because I think ultimately, so what you would probably need is a larger, again, you're building a whole kind of workforce ecosystem here. So you would need multiple partners there. You would want to work with the industry. You'd want to put together an application that brings in the industry, the educational providers, any of the schools, et cetera. But I think that's a really great idea. I think sizing is probably going to be the issue. I think if you could go with a larger project, just because specifically on that Good Jobs Challenge, you're looking at, I believe it's like 5 million to 25 million. So it's a larger scale program. But when you think about Southwestern Pennsylvania as a whole, and the fact that we have significant challenges, I think you probably talk to any employer, whether it's hospitality, healthcare, childcare, everybody has this. I think that would be a great component to look at. One of the things that I hope to do after this, especially because I think there's a real opportunity to put together a great Good Jobs application, figure out who might be the lead applicant on something like that, and work with our partners. I think the economic development organizations, industry, schools, workforce boards would all want to be a part of something like that. I think that's a great idea. I think we just would need to scale it larger.
Are you ready for the next?
Yes, please. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. This is from Don Henderson. This is in reference to the travel, tourism, recreation grants. Do these travel and recreation grants have to be regional in nature?
They don't have to be. They would like them to be. I don't think that it would be a negative to go after it necessarily on your own, but knowing that you probably have somewhere between 30 and 100 partnership municipalities, if you will, that have a similar goal, you would probably want to go through that regional. They stress regional. It's not a requirement, but they love to see regional.
Okay, and the next one that I see is our police department is going through an accreditation program that is expensive. Would this be one of the allowed or permitted grant purposes?
I don't think there's anything currently that is specific to that. It would need to be part of a larger project, in that there would have to be a tie to jobs. There would have to be a tie to probably retention of jobs and future creation of jobs. But in terms of just paying for the accreditation, I don't think there's any of the current grants that would be a direct fit for that.
I'll jump in on that one. I think that, I'm not sure, I think Lee asked that question. You can probably use your local ARPA funds for that. Everyone got local ARPA funds. So that's something we can look at the local level.
And Jonna, thank you again. In the beginning, Jonna talked about this presentation was very specific to the Economic Development Administration's 6 challenges and their ARPA challenges. Individual dollars, all different federal organizations, state dollars, all very different things. This one was very specific to these EDA $3 billion challenge. Next question.
From Jeff, can the recreation grants be coupled with DCNR C2P2 grants? Who reviews the recreation grant applications?
For the actual travel and tourism, it's going to be the EDA team. EDA is going to be doing the review of all of these and their individual teams. But in terms of can it be coupled with the DCNR C2P2 grants, I will get further clarification on that. I'm not sure.
I'm going to go ahead and answer that. Yes, federal funds can match state funds. Federal funds can match state funds. But again, remember, these grant opportunities that we're talking about today, these quote unquote challenges, to use the federal lingo, these are from the federal government, right? This is not a state program. This would be federal money. But yes, it can match, federal dollars can match state dollars.
Thank you.
Okay, the next one that I have, what percentage of funding goes or can go towards consultants?
Believe it or not, that question has not been addressed in any of the frequently asked questions. So I will get that to EDA, nor has it been a part of their webinars. And Steve, I believe you've been on them as well. That has not been addressed, correct?
Yeah, no, not that I've seen.
That's a
You know,
great
they've done a
question.
lot of FAQs. I don't think anybody has asked that in the live chats either. And you know, just so you guys know, everybody that's on the line today, you know, however fast questions are popping up in our chat, it was 100 times faster in the national EDA calls because everybody from every state was on. So you know, I don't think that question has been addressed. So we can definitely get that answered for you guys.
Can I just jump in at Stephanie at the conference? I don't know if this relates to the consultant I mentioned. We have raised some money to fund the consultant that's helping us write the grant. It is not being assumed coming out of any government money, just in case that's a clarification that needs to be said.
Thank you.
Okay. Great. Next question.
Okay, question from Lee. Trail connector from a public park to a regional trail. Would this be acceptable?
Yes, according to the notice of funding opportunity, it would be. But I would just make sure going through the actual notice of funding opportunity, it's available on the website, and I'll send the links to all that. Go through and just make sure it meets all of the criteria, but in terms of just the project you're mentioning, it would be something that would qualify.
But Jen, just to be clear, so that particular example, the trail connector from a public park to a regional trail, rather than that municipality putting that in as a separate application, that would probably be better as part of a group of trail projects tied together, correct?
Yes, and there will be more on that, because that was I was just having a conversation with Andy yesterday. Yeah. And that was whenever I was providing kind of the overview to the staff here of all of this. And when we got to this challenge, he specifically said, I can think of probably 3 to 10 different projects that this would be good for. This might be something that we as a region go into to put together one project specifically on trails. So again, bringing everybody together, talking about this. What I was hoping to not only do was give you the information about the EDA grants, but spur the idea of areas of connection and opportunities to go in on various projects together. I think that's going to be our most successful way of getting these dollars, is that collaboration piece. So I think you will see a separate invite for anybody who might be interested on specifically travel tourism, and probably a subset of that will be trails.
Okay, the next, I'm actually going to group the next 2 questions together because they're somewhat related. Are the purchase of police or fire vehicles eligible, or is the remodeling of borough property eligible? Any of those eligible for these projects?
It depends under the specific grant. It's going to have a tie back to, I don't believe that the purchase of police or fire vehicles is eligible, but I will confirm that. And then what was the next one?
Remodeling of borough buildings.
Not according to the notice of funding opportunity.
Okay.
But again, if you want to read through and just make sure that your specific case doesn't have any outlier that would make it eligible. But as I had kind of gone through and mentioned, ineligible activities, it's got to be very specific and tied to the grant itself, and the actual building of or updating of a building specifically for municipal use is not eligible.
And for those police and fire purchases and renovation of borough buildings, folks can reach out to me. We can talk about the possible use of your local ARPA funds, or we can talk about the state government, the Commonwealth has a loan program for capital improvements such as that. It's basically free money. It's got like a 1% interest over, I don't know, 20 years. So certainly folks can feel free to reach out to me.
Judy would like to know if there's a spend or complete by deadline.
So each grant has a deadline, but almost all of the programs have to be completed by May of 2027. So all funds, the award must be completed and all funds dispersed no later than 2027, with awards through September 30th of 2022. And all activities under the award must be completed no later than September 30th, 2027. Each grant is a little bit different, whether it's a 12 to 48 months, and it's up to 60 months on a few things. But ultimately, your drop end date is September 30th, 2027.
Okay, the next question I have is for blight projects. Could funding for the land bank be eligible? For instance, could the funds be used as seed money and/or land bank projects such as demo or rehab and then resale? Or will the resale funds need to be considered income and then sent back?
So from an EDA perspective, and I'll let Jonna jump on for the state side. I will ask this question right now. I didn't see anything that would kind of allow this, but let me do some further research on that, and I will get that back. And I'll also have on the website, the ARPA website that we'll have for SPC, the frequently asked questions from this and any future answers. Jonna, do you have anything on that from the state side?
I don't have anything on that from the state side, but I will say, getting back to that blight discussion, that is something I think would be good for Stephanie to hear about, right? Is creation of additional land banks, seeding land banks, is that something that should be part of this, one aspect of this larger Build Back Better challenge? If one aspect of that can be targeted toward blight, is one of the mechanisms land banks? And I saw some other, blight remarks on there. So I'll just say that.
And again, I think based on, and the goal of this was to really see what those pain points and challenges are. Obviously, blight is one of them. There will be a follow-on meeting for sure, specific in regards to blight.
And I also saw somebody, and I think they didn't put it in the chat for everyone, they directed it to me. Masontown is working on a Main Street project. And again, I think that as you all digest the information that you heard today, right, are projects targeted toward these small town main streets? Are there some specific elements that 10 or 12 or 30 municipalities share vis-a-vis their visions for their main streets? Is that something that can be wrapped together into this, into a regional project that might fit under the Build Back Better or the economic development assistance? So, keep that in your head. Remember, folks, we're thinking really regionally here, right? And we don't necessarily, and Jen, correct me if I'm wrong, we don't necessarily mean something that has to apply to every single municipality in every single one of our 10 counties, but maybe it's 4 or 5 municipalities that get together.
Absolutely.
Correct?
That's the goal of this, is to hear, who kind of needs what, figure out who your partners in this could be, and then maybe you all go in on this project together. Have one main applicant helping 3, 4, 5 municipalities. It does not have to be all 584 by any means. So we truly and utterly wanted this to be a discussion to understand what was out there and how you could partner with others as well. And if that's something you might be interested in, I'll put something about that on the survey, and maybe we could start to put together kind of brainstorming groups about how to handle some of these challenges after, even if it's not appropriate for EDA. We definitely need to have these conversations. So Absolutely.
Right. The next question, if you guys are ready, this is from Greg. Would environmental assessment and cleanup activities be eligible under BBB and EAA as a part of brownfields redevelopment?
It depends how they were worded and depends if they were part of that larger project. So that would be very specific to if this were something that they were funding under this, especially Buildback Better, and under the economic adjustment assistance, it would have to be something that's listed that basically you could, it could tie in potentially. And so I apologize for the maybes. It's really going to be very specific to your project and making sure that it's with the notice of funding opportunity. So what I would love to do when it's a very specific question, again, that's not currently, I have the frequently asked questions as well as the notice of funding opportunity up. It's not listed. So that's something I would then reach out to Chris Casper with EDA on to get an actual confirmation of. So I'll be doing that.
And Jen, I'll follow up on that. That's a great question. Just to give you a little bit of perspective from the Commonwealth, we do have the Industrial Sites Reuse Fund, ISRP, Industrial Sites Reuse Program, that is currently out of money. So again, remember I said earlier that the state has ARPA money, which the legislature put into the rainy day fund, and we expect, we're hopeful that they will recapitalize programs once they come back into session. So, for those of you who have, specific needs or questions like that, those are the kinds of programs you want to be making sure you're talking to your state senators and state representatives about, right? Those are the kinds of things that you want to make sure they understand that you have needs for, and that we have state programs that if they have funding in them, those are the kinds of programs we can use to help with that. So that's just a little follow up on that one. That's a great question.
Yeah, great question. All right, next one.
So the next one, how would infrastructure, water, and sewer improvements be funded? Will they be, and how large of a project is required?
Perfect. And I can also see there's also our storm sewer improvements or flood mitigation costs eligible. It's going to be very specific to so for infrastructure, water, sewer improvements, they state in the notice of funding opportunity that yes, they could be funded. It's going to matter. It is going to be specific to how large of the project, based on whether it is the economic adjustment. So with this, it's going to have to be under a larger project. And this is where, just as Jonna had mentioned as well, maybe a few different municipalities go in on something together to talk about this. But the closest one that it would be for would be economic adjustment assistance, and it's going to have a tie to jobs. So whether it's the construction jobs that would go along to this, or the retention of jobs, or now that you've been able to do these improvements, you can now have additional buildings and additional businesses come in, and those will equate to X number of jobs. Again, with Economic Development Administration dollars, it's really going to come back to basically putting people back to work through those construction jobs and non-construction projects that will meet those needs. But they do allow for the technical assistance, planning, workforce development, public works and infrastructure projects. So especially for the infrastructure side, we'll be doing a separate meeting definitely on economic adjustment assistance, and it will probably have the subsets of brownfields, infrastructure, water and sewer, etc. Because I think once I can get back to EDA on this as well, and again, I wish they could be here to answer some of this, but we can probably drill down to specifically what would be covered. But based on the notice of funding opportunity and the overviews, it doesn't specifically state how large of a project is required, but it could be funded. And that would be the same answer for our storm sewer improvements or flood mitigation projects cost eligible for this.
Okay.
Right. So we have two questions after that are related to, actually 3 questions related to stormwater projects. but the one that is not related to stormwater projects was about whether it was Jonna or if it was Stephanie who stated to reach out to them on building renovations. It's my memory that was Stephanie, correct, with the Allegheny Conference?
If you have, good, good.
That's probably me if they were talking about a borough building.
Oh, my apologies.
No, not a problem.
Got it. So yes, if you have a specific building renovation question, Jonna, person to see.
And
Next.
the next question that doesn't really have to do with stormwater projects, which you just addressed, is we have a highway turnback project that is underfunded. And I'm assuming that they're wondering if ARPA funds could be used to complete the funding package for that project.
I would need to see what the actual project is. If you want to send that my way, I can probably answer that a little bit more in depth, specifically to what's entailed, what are the outcomes going to be, because we'll basically line this up with the notice of funding and see if it's something that would fit. One of the things I also want to give seeing the next question, Aaron, if you are on, if you want to just say hello real quick. I wanted to introduce it just because we have a lot of water questions. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but we have a water resource center here at SPC, and Erin Keppel-Adams is the manager of that program. And in terms of MS4, flooding, etc., she's our point person. She's kind of all things water, and I'm so lucky that she was able to be a part of this. She put some information into the chat funding about other grant funding for flooding non-disaster mitigation grant applications under the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities and the Flood Mitigation Assistance Grants. Again, she put about the letter of interest to the PEMA folks and some other information. So Erin, are you on by any chance?
Yes, Jen, I'm here.
Perfect. If you just wanted to just say hello to everybody, tell them a little bit about what you do, things that you might be able to help with. And sorry to put you on the spot. I just thank you for putting that information. And if you think of any other grants.
Sure. We have a wealth of information on funding sources on the spcwater.org website. If you're interested, we recently did a webinar on the FEMA and PEMA funding for flooding and mitigation grants in July. So the information is pretty updated, and it's, there's links in there to where to find all the forms, contacts, all that useful information. Yeah, we definitely are looking for recommendations too for future types of webinars and information that you need at the local level for our programs moving forward. But you can find all of our past information for from our webinars and in-person workshops on our website, spcwater.org again. Upcoming events are on there as well. Yeah, I'm here to answer questions and help as much as I can. If you can't get a hold of the hazard mitigation officers and things like that, I'm happy to help with that process. So thanks.
Thank you so much. Perfect. Great. And if you have anything specific to water, we can at least start that conversation, have those questions. If we're the people that can help with it, great. Otherwise, we'll connect you to those resources. Again, thank you, Erin, for letting me put you on the spot. I really appreciate that. Okay, next question.
Next question.
Time for probably one more.
Yeah, that'd be good. One more question, and this last one is that we have a blighted mansion that was owned by a nonprofit. The organization is now non-existent, and a conservator has been assigned. This property is in our historic district, and it was a tourist location in its time. Can monies be used to renovate the property? A private individual is interested in buying the project to use as a bed and breakfast to increase housing for tourists who come and travel to our area. This would increase the potential for some employment in our area and add to the assessed value of our real estate. This would increase jobs and revenues in the area as well.
So I'll turn this also over to Jonna to add to. Specific to this, we'd probably have to have it part of a larger project just because of the sheer size of what the dollars are. The other piece of the fact that it is in a historic district, making sure kind of checks and check boxes, there is a section in the notice of funding opportunity that has to deal specifically with buildings in historic districts. And so I would want to probably talk to you offline and further about this to make sure. but so I would want to take this one offline, and I will actually reach out to you. I have your email as well. Jonna, do you have anything on this one?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm certainly able to talk offline about some potential state funding opportunities for a project like that. And then lastly, so, reach out to me on that one. And then lastly, Jen, there were a couple comments early in the chat that I think we lost them. Terry represents a large farming municipality it's a township with no industry, very limited tax base, looking for some ideas, sort of what sort of things should we be looking for from Terry that they might do that might fit into one of these challenges. And then we had a similar question from Tori, who's in a small borough. So I don't know, to put you on the spot, Jen, but maybe, I don't know if Stephanie's still on the call, or Steve, or whomever, what are some kinds of things that they should be thinking about, similar to maybe the conversation you and I had.
Absolutely.
We talked about all kind of crazy things like an equipment library, and
I love that idea.
sidewalks or parks. So I'll let you take it from there.
Perfect. So great questions. And so, the whole point of this is to figure out what your needs are. So knowing that you're from a large farming municipality and you don't have any industry per your comment, limited tax base, et cetera. What are your current needs? Is it a blight issue? Do you have the challenge of workforce? Are there jobs for the people that do live within the community? What are you seeing in terms of, are there opportunities for growth in tourism? What this is for us is hopefully going to establish a new inroad to have better and more robust conversations about what your needs are and figure out what funding opportunities are out there to assist. And I think the same thing would go with a small community, is realizing that if you as a small community are having these 2, 3, 4 issues or however number, and I talk to 10 other small communities, that's an opportunity to collaborate and look after for funds that could assist. I think one of the things, and in being a little bit newer in this position, this is my first opportunity talking to all of you on the municipal side, and that I really would like the opportunity to grow that relationship and understand what your needs are. As SPC, being both a metropolitan planning organization, a local development district, and an economic development district, we want to hear what you need. Your feedback is very important to us as we continue to update things like our SEDS plan and all of that. So I think what I would want to know is what in this program is specifically for you. I think it's going to depend on specifically what your needs are. If you don't have any specific challenges and you don't need money, then probably none of them. But I think when you look at kind of what your opportunities and your challenges are, if there are things that are rising to the top, and when you get that survey from me, it's going to list some areas and some project ideas, as well as things to maybe spur those ideas in terms of, again, hearing that we have, blight is obviously rose very far to the top. One of the other things that I have seen through my questions just from the registration is costs for paving, costs for equipment, getting an idea of what those needs are and ensuring that we have programs to go after, whether it's individually or as a region or as, state, et cetera, to know what those challenges are. So a very long and lengthy answer to say, let me know what you think you need, and we can figure out what the best program for you is. I don't want you to apply for something that isn't a good fit for you.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I sound like, what's this, Carl Sagan, billions and billions of dollars, right? This is your opportunity to sit down with your fellow citizens, your other elected officials, your school board, your young people, your seniors. In a perfect world in our community, if we had the money, what is it we would do, right? What is it we would do? And pick those 2 or 3 things and share them with us. Certainly share them with Jen and the team at SPC, and we'll see where they can fit. Is that a good way to say it, Jen?
Absolutely. And again, where John and I started having this, where this even came about, John and I started talking about this EDA grant, and really getting an idea of what you need. Is it even appropriate for, I will be quite honest with you. I expected maybe a max of 20 individuals interested in learning about this. And we had 200 and almost 230 people register, meaning that there is a want to know about these dollars and how they can be used, meaning that there are additional people who probably have similar challenges and programs. Let's bring everybody together. We're all, they're thinking regionally. Yes, you might be in a different county, but your challenge, based on what I'm seeing, blight is not a one county issue. It is a multiple county issue. So let's start to think about that. If costs for equipment, again, as Jonna had mentioned, that wonderful program about the library, like this is an opportunity, whether it's a Main Street program. John and I talked about the challenges of playgrounds and being able to have space for kids, learning what those programs are, because again, EDA is just one subset of lots of dollars that are coming out. And I will be hosting more of these and very specific. The goal of today was to take about 9 hours of webinars and put it down to an hour. So you got a ton of information in a short period of time, lots to digest, lots to think about. But as you think about this, and if you missed something, if you're not sure, if it's all a blur, that's okay. Give me a call, send me an email. I will walk you through all of this. Most important is that, we're accessible. We want to be here to help you through this. EDA is so excited to have this once in a lifetime opportunity to put $3 billion out. Why not be a part of it?
Well, and just to follow up on that, and Jen has been, even though she's fairly new to the SPC, she and Steve and all of the folks at the SPC really have an eye on the region, right? Let's face it, we know that the big cities, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, New York, Chicago, places like that, this is pro forma for them to do. The big universities, they go after this money. And when I originally talked to Jen a couple of weeks ago, she immediately understood that, I represent almost 700 communities in 12 counties. I want to make sure that all of you at least know that these opportunities are out there, and let you know that it's okay to think outside the box. It's good to have some crazy ideas, and that we have people on the ground who are available to help you, to provide the technical expertise, to kick around ideas. We want to make sure you don't get left out of this, right? We just want to make sure that you know that we want you to be included. Again, Jen, thank you, Steve. Thanks to the whole team at SPC. I know Vince Valdez was on the phone earlier. We really appreciate you doing this for folks, and Stephanie too at the Allegheny Conference. So folks, don't let this opportunity pass you by, please.
And anybody that didn't get their questions answered in the chat, we'll grab them and we'll send them over to Jen for her to answer as well.
Fantastic. And the ones on DEP, again, we'll be working with everybody that you've had from SPC, along with Aaron as well. So thank you. I cannot thank everybody for their time, their energy, their questions. Thank you for everything you've learned, and more to come on this. And you'll see some emails from me shortly about kind of the what's next in the survey, et cetera. Probably going to be out tomorrow after I've had a chance to go through all of the questions and see what I can get. So thank you to the SPC team. Jonna, thank you so much. Thank you to our county commissioners that were on, and all of our municipalities. You all do amazing work, and we appreciate you, and have a good rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Hey, Jen, real quick, I do want to remind folks on the call, you talked earlier about sam.gov. Everyone on the call, from what I can tell, represents a community that did get their ARPA money, and because they got their ARPA money, they're already registered at sam.gov.
I just wanted to put that out there as a checkpoint. I didn't want to hold anybody up.
They've gotten past that hurdle. And again, folks, when you see an email from Jen with some sort of survey on it for what you're looking for and what you need, please take the time to fill that out.
Guys, thank you again, and thanks for all you do, and have a good rest of your week. Thanks.
Thank you.